it's Josh, and this is a proposal deep dive. If you're new to Portal, but you haven't had a chance to jump on a screen share with somebody on our team, but you'd like to learn the ins and outs of Portal, this video's for you. If you've been using Portal for a while, but you'd like to find some undiscovered features and learn some tips and tricks, this video's for you. Now, before we get started, just a bit of housekeeping. Our developers work in 1-week sprints, so that means that we're constantly improving Portal and building new features. We release new feature videos on our YouTube channel, so make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll get alerts when we have new content there. All right, so here's a list of some of the things that we're going to go over on this video today. Got it? Okay, let's build a proposal. Let's look up an Origin D63 from the catalog. And you can start building a new proposal right here from the catalog. Just mouse over the result that you want, and I'm going to click Add to Proposal now. Your most recent default proposal that you were working on shows up here. You can click this little arrow, and then we'll create a new proposal. This is the Daryl Philbin main house. Okay. And then I'm going to create a living room, and we're going to do a kitchen area. And I'm actually not going to put the end ceilings in the living room. I'm going to put them in the kitchen. And then let's add a Sonos arc. In the living room. And then next, let's add some speaker wire, 16.2 speaker wire. I like this ICE cable, 16.2, so I'm going to add it to proposal. I actually need it for the kitchen. This is a 500-foot spool, so I'm actually going to use a decimal, 0.2, that's about 100 feet. And we'll add that. And then I also need a Sonos amp to power those speakers in the kitchen. But it's actually going to get installed in the living room, so let's put it there. All right, let's check out this proposal. All right, so here's the one we just created, the Daryl Philbin house. I'm assigned by default. I'm the only user on this account, but if you have multiple users, you can actually assign the salesperson. The other thing is this proposal right now is set to not expire. The problem with that is if the customer doesn't want to make a decision now, and I leave the proposal out there, when the customer comes back in, say, 6 months and wants to move forward, all the pricing might be out of date. So I can set an expiration date. I'm going to set it to 30 days. And then you can also set it as your default for your company here as well. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to set this one to 30 days. And then I've got to create a new client and put in their address. All right, and then you'll see this proposal history section started populating. I'm gonna come back to that, but there's a lot of really useful information that comes in here that we'll use for reference, and I'm gonna revisit that a little bit later. As far as the proposal layout goes, we've got a cover page. I've got a default image that loaded here. We've got some stock photography, but you can load your own. So I know a lot of dealers will take photos of the property. Some guys even grab images off of Google Maps if you haven't been to the job site yet. But you can load an image here. We'll actually keep this as the cover image. I've got my company logo loaded here already, so that shows up on the proposal. And then your About Us section is next. This section probably won't change too much, proposal to proposal. This is almost like a mini website for your company. So this is what sets you apart from competitors and why the customer should use you. For this one, I've got an image loaded in here. It's a text editor, so we can drop text, we can format it, make it look really nice. We can put in links, we can upload files. So if you've got a PDF, in the other sections, you might want to attach a PDF of a design for reference where the customer can download it and check it out. You can do that. You can also embed videos. So if, and we'll look at an example of a YouTube video a little bit later, but the other embedded video you can do is a Loom video. So Loom videos, we actually use these internally as a team, but you can record a Loom video using the Loom app and then embed it right into the proposal. So you can turn on your camera, explain some confusing part of the system to the customer, or maybe in the next section down, the project description, you might want to record a video and just thank them for the opportunity to work together. The sky's the limit there. Personalized videos are really helpful for connecting with the customer when you might not be right in front of them. So lots of options here for editing. I'm going to leave this go. This is my default for my company, and so we'll keep that there. Again, this is a similar text editor for the project description. So this is your scope of work. This is where you want to lay out everything that you're doing at a high level for this project. Again, you can, let's say Control 4 has a great, helpful YouTube video. You can embed that here so the customer can actually watch that video while they're looking at the proposal. The proposal is broken out by area. So I've got my living room and my kitchen. I can add or arrange my areas. Just drag and drop to rearrange them. All right, so here's my line items. You can see I added these earlier, and you can rearrange these if you want. So we can put the amp up here. I like the speaker to go first. You can also drag underneath and nest them, and this attaches them to the item above. Now, the other thing you can do is combine the prices. So if you want to combine those prices into a single line up here under this parent item, you can do that. The sell price and MSRP, we show the MSRP here for reference. So you can look at that when you're setting the sell price. If you want to change the sell price, if you want to set this a little bit lower than MSRP, we'll show you that you're giving a line item discount. And you can actually choose whether or not that discount on the line item shows up to the customer in their view. And you can do that in the client view settings, which we'll get to in a minute. And then we show your profit, which is auto-calculated based on your default supplier. So once you set up your managed pricing in the catalog, that information all pulls in when you add the product to the proposal. So for this room, we've got a client description. So this is client-facing, obviously. It's another text editor field. You can drop in images, embedded videos again in here, but you can type up what's happening in this room for the customer. And then we've got an installer description as well. So in this case, I've got a TV is going above the fireplace. There's already a chase running from the basement to the accessible area above the living room ceiling for my installers. The customer doesn't see that note, my installers do. All right, so next we've got, we did proposal expiry, we did proposal history a little bit. We'll revisit that in a second. Next, we're going to add some labor. Now in this case, I've got installation. You can add additional labor items like programming, project management. I'm going to add a couple hours of install labor here. And then I also want to add a custom item. For my custom item, I created a miscellaneous item. And what's interesting about this item is you can set the sell price to just be a fixed price if it's like a package, miscellaneous item, or you can set it to be dynamically calculated based on some fields. So in this case, it's 5% of my area total, but you can have it calculate based on the entire proposal total, the parts, or the labor separately in the proposal. So there's some options there. I'm setting it to 5% of the area for miscellaneous connectors and materials. You can load an image here as well if you'd like. And then we'll save it and add it. All right, that looks good. And then I've got to add some labor down here for my speaker. Before I do that, let's attach the wire to the speaker. And then we'll add 2 hours of install. And I'd like to attach that as well. All right, I mentioned that this was going to be video, that we were going to do a TV on the fireplace. What I want to show you next is auto attachments. So the way this works is if we go into the catalog and let's look up a TV. In this case, I'm going to look up the Samsung frame. This is the one, and if I open up that TV on the product detail page and I scroll down, you'll see that I've attached some labor as well as some accessories here. Now, when you're building this, you have, if you notice over here on the right, you've got suggested attachments. Now, if you just created your account, it's going to look at your company's activity to populate this, and you might not have much on there yet. But to help you out, you can just change this over to industry activities. So you can see what other dealers like you in the industry are speccing alongside with this TV. And then you can also further filter that by just looking at your brand. So the brands that you've started using on your proposals, it'll just filter by those. And then you can add any of these attachments. And the way it works is as you add this TV to the proposal, all of these attachments come with it automatically. So you can really make sure that you get all of the installation, all of these attachments that you usually sell or always sell with this TV come in automatically. So it makes building proposals really, really fast. In this case, you can see we've got a VersaPro box. We've got a strong mount that I like. I added a remote control. This one's interesting. So this Apple TV actually had some attachments. So I had set this Apple TV up with some installation as well as an HDMI cable. When I add that Apple TV, all the attachments come in with it as well. Now, to show you, I do want to show you something I didn't get to do. So let's remove this labor. And let's add the labor item again. When you add an item as an attachment, it's going to ask you if you want that item to be attached to all items in this category by default. So I can have all TVs have this installation line item attached to them. So let's do it. And then you can see there's a little tag here that says that this is now the default for all TVs. It's a default attachment for labor. All right, the other thing is this looks a little familiar. Remember when we had the combine prices button on the proposal? This sets that to be the default behavior when you add this item with all of its attachments to the proposal. So when it goes into the proposal, if I have that turned on, it will be set automatically to combine the prices on the proposal. All right, let's add it to my proposal. Living room. And then we'll jump into the proposal, go down to the living room, and we can see that it's right there with all the attachments. And then I'm going to drag that up to be the top item on this proposal. Great, everything's looking good. We've got it combined for the pricing. Now, when I was talking to Daryl, he thought he might want to upgrade to the 75-inch. So instead of just speccing a 75 or sending two separate quotes, I'm going to create an option for Daryl so he can consider both on the same proposal. So the way that works is I can come up to the area and click add an area option. And I've already built everything that I need. I'm just swapping the TV. So I'm going to copy option 1 items into option 2. Now you can do up to 3 options in a proposal, in an area. And so if I go into my option 2, I've got everything cloned, but remember I'm upgrading the 65 to a 70 for this option. So I'm going to click replace item on this line item. So we're going to find the Samsung QN75LS. Now you notice here, this top row are my favorites. So as you add products to proposals, they get automatically favorited so you can find things a little bit faster. In this case, I'm looking for the 75, which I haven't spec'd before. So if I look past the favorites, it's right here. So we're going to replace it with this item. And here's that 75. Here's the 65. And then I can draw the distinction in my client description. So let's put option 1, small, really small, 65-inch Samsung, the frame. And then let's make that big so he can really notice the different options. Okay, and then for my option 2, I'm going to put in here option 2. Beautiful, perfectly sized 75-inch Samsung, the frame. He'll definitely go for the upgrade. All right, so that's optional items. Again, you can do up to 3 options in an area. One thing I've seen done is, let's say this kitchen is optional, so he's not sure yet if he wants to do the kitchen. This actually only works if I have that amp in the kitchen, right? So this amp is driving those speakers. So if I move this amp down into the kitchen, and then maybe for the client note, I'll put that it gets installed in the living room AV furniture. Okay, so now I need it for this area, and that note shows up just on that line item for this product, and the client can see that. So then now I can go add an area option, but this time I'm going to create a blank option 2, and in the client description I'm going to say option 2 opt out of kitchen audio zone. And we'll make that big. And we'll bold it. Okay, so now when the customer's going through here, they can evaluate the system. They can remove the audio zone by selecting option 2. And just to make it look consistent and nice, I'm gonna put that comment option 1, audio zone in kitchen. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is I'm going to add a service item. So you can see I created this item in my custom item section, and this is for extended service. And I can set a sell price, and I've selected recurring service checkbox here. And then we're going to add this to the kitchen. And that comes in as a service item. Now what you'll notice is it doesn't contribute to the room total or the area total. Instead, it gets broken out separately. And then at the end of the proposal in the financial summary, it's broken out separately as well. So the customer can see the ongoing costs that they might incur through services, warranties, etc. So you can break those out. All right, so another little sort of tip here on how to build a proposal quickly is by using cloning. So the way cloning works is if I have another proposal, let's say this is a similar job, or I did a similar room package on another job, or In some cases, actually a lot of cases, people will create template proposals, and you can call it template so it's easy to find. And you can open up that template proposal, and there's a few ways to get similar systems. Let's look at the garden here. So this is an outdoor zone, right? So I've got some install, wiring, miscellaneous items. I've got an amplifier, source, and some bollard speakers. So I'm going to take this entire area and I'm going to clone it into that other proposal. And we're going to create, it's going to come in because I took the whole area, it's going to come in as the garden area. So I can make changes on our proposal. Additionally, if I just want to send in specific items, let's say I want to send in everything but leave out the amplifier, because it's a customer provided amp, so I'm going to leave that out. I can just select the items that I want to send and then copy those items to that proposal as well. The other thing you can do is you can copy an entire proposal. So if you want to start off with a fully built proposal as your template, you can go in here and clone the proposal, and then you just name the proposal, and then you've got a complete clone of that proposal that you can start with. So there's some ways to quickly get started or to populate an entire area with products from a template. So let's go back into Daryl's proposal. This proposal's starting to look pretty good. And then here's my garden. I'm going to call this the outdoor zone. All right, next up is the financial summary section. This section breaks out the parts and labor separately. It also allows you to do a single line item parts discount here. You can do that based on a percentage of the parts or a fixed dollar amount for the discount. The sales tax is actually calculated for you automatically based on the customer's address. We use an integration with TaxJar, which auto-calculates it and populates your sales tax. You can actually set this, you can change it over to be calculated based on your company address in your settings. So there's a section in your settings for some proposal optional settings. That's in there if you want to change it. Next up, we have the profit analysis. Your favorite part, right? So on the profit, we break out parts and labor. So the labor gets calculated based on your labor costs, which you can put on each labor line item. And then your profit on parts gets calculated based on your default supplier. So again, once you set up all of your suppliers and your pricing in the catalog, then your profit gets calculated automatically on the proposals. You can make sure that your profit's in line with your company goals. Now, this refresh current pricing button, let's say you have a proposal, let's say that customer proposal expired, they got a splash page that said, contact, in this case, Josh Willits for an updated proposal. I come in here, the first thing I do is click refresh current pricing. And that's going to pull in all the new costs, maybe cost updates from my suppliers. It's also going to pull in any new MSRPs that have changed on the items. I'll still have to go in here and decide which items I'm going to change my sell price. So it doesn't update your sell price automatically. So if the MSRP has gone up and you want to raise the price, you have to go in and raise the price. But the MSRP is there for reference. So you can just cruise through this proposal and make sure everything's selling at what you want to sell it for. And then you're good to go. All right, next up is the payments section. The payments section is again, you get a text field where you can describe maybe some terms of the payments and how you want the customers to make payments. With premium and unlimited subscriptions, you get the payment schedule. The way the payment schedule works is you can actually set the schedule, set up any number of payments, and it gets auto-calculated for you. So you don't have to do the math and type it out in the description area. Where this is really helpful is if you have options on the proposal, you don't know what, let's say, 50% of the proposal total is going to be until the customer accepts the proposal. So when you use the payment schedule, it's calculated for you automatically. So I'm going to do 100% of parts up front. That's good. This is actually my standard for quick jobs like this, where I can get in and get out. If it's, a 3-phase job, I might take, I might have a different schedule here. But you can set your company default, and then you can change it on each proposal. And then you've got some options in terms of when it's due, which milestone. You can add your own here. In this case, I have it set to ask for 100% of parts when the customer accepts the proposal. So we'll show you what that looks like, but that's what I have it set to right now. And then the rest of it, the outstanding balance, is due upon completion. So we'll save the payment schedule. The payment schedule then applies to payment requests, okay? So with payment requests, this allows you to manage the payments and requesting payments from customers. So the way it works is when you set your payment schedule up, this first payment request is, you'll see they're connected. So this is the same number, this is the same number. And when the customer digitally signs and accepts the proposal, this first payment request automatically gets created in your account and presented to the customer. And so you can set up your payment request with payment instructions, and then you can set default payment instructions. So those payment instructions could be wire transfer, address to send the check, maybe your Venmo information. All of that you can put in here and then save as your default. So the customer gets presented with all the options for payments. Then the extension to that is payment processing, which we partnered with Stripe through their API. When you sign up for payment processing, we can actually present the customer with the ability to pay ACH or a credit card when they get presented with this payment request, which is when they're accepting and signing the proposal. So no more waiting a couple days, sending out a QuickBooks a payment request a day or two later, and then waiting until you get the customer's attention. It all happens when they accept the proposal. And then you can manage those payments, so you can see when the payment is, when you've collected the payment, when they've paid. And then when you're ready, you can create the next payment request so that you can see the status of all the payments on the proposal. So it makes it much easier to manage collecting against the balance of the proposal right here from the proposal inside of Portal. And then the last section on the proposal is our project terms. That's where you'll want to preload your terms and conditions for all of your projects and then save it as your company default. All right, so we've hit a lot on proposals. A few other maybe tiny things here and there. The product description from the catalog comes into your proposals by default. Let's say you want to make some tweaks to this, or you want to write your own descriptions. You can do that. Just click on it and convert it over to a custom short description for that product, and you can save it as your company default in the catalog. So you can do that. I think I've hit everything on the proposal itself. Next up, let's take a look at the client view settings. So this is where you have some options in terms of what the proposal looks like to the customer. A popular one is hiding line item prices. So you can hide the line item prices on parts. You can hide it on labor. You can also hide the labor totals. What that does is you can remove the area totals and then just show a total at the bottom of the proposal so that it does not break out labor and parts separately. The other thing you can do is hide model numbers. So if the customer's out shopping and you don't want to see which model number to compare to another quote, you have the option to hide the model numbers. Let's do that on this one. And then there's some other ones. I mentioned this earlier. You can hide the MSRP discount to the customer. That just doesn't flag it for them if you're selling it for less than the MSRP. All right, we've got a few other things here. Before we submit this proposal, let's look down through it. We're going to preview what this looks like to the customer in a second. Here's all the statuses, so you can manually change the status of the proposal. We saw this earlier, cloning proposals, and then you can order parts this way. But that's sort of out of the workflow right now. We're just trying to finish this proposal, and we want to send it off to the customer. Here's some PDF options of the proposal that you can download. This installer version shows those installer notes. So it shows all the line items, it removes all the pricing, and then it shows those notes just for the installer. So you can download this. You can load it into your project management tool that you use. You can email it, drop it into Google Drive for your technicians to help them know what to do on the job and what the job looks like. And then you've also got the warehouse pick list. Actually, we'll download that one and take a look. So the warehouse pick list groups everything by category. And then you can print this out and keep it in the warehouse and mark when the items are in stock, when you've ordered products, when you've received them. And then there's a section here for the technician to sign out items when they take them to the job site. So this helps you manage the full pick list for that project. All right. Next, we've got an invoice version. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to set my invoice date. Oh, today's fine. And the invoice just does a line item invoice for the customer. The first page is the total for the project. And then we break it out by area with no images, just a line item invoice. So if somebody asks for an invoice, they want the word invoice on the proposal, you can send them this. All right, the other thing that you can download is a data file. So this is a CSV version of the proposal, which just has line item. It's a spreadsheet basically with line items. All of the pricing cost is in there as well. Or a slightly different format of that CSV that can be imported to tools like Zoho. This one's designed for Zoho, so you can use that as well to take it into project management in, let's say, Zoho, for instance. And then the client version of the PDF. This is really designed for email and web delivery and experiencing it, but you can download the PDF, the client version of the PDF right here. All right. This proposal's ready to go, so we're going to click email and submit. Actually, before we do, we're going to preview it. I'm glad you said something. All right, so this is the client view, a preview of what the client sees. Here's your main cover image and the cover page with your contact information. Now it'll pull your information from your settings page in Portal, so your company information comes in here, and then the customer information obviously is from the customer record. Here's the About Us section. You can see the proposal options for the living room here. The default is for these attachments to roll up, so they can click down to see them. And remember, we clicked combined price, so this includes everything attached to it. All right, so that's what it looks like to the customer. Now, remember, I did not put in my terms section. So if that section's blank, it just doesn't show up to the customer. And that's true for the About Us, as well as the project description. In fact, if I go up here, there's no project description because I left that entire section blank, so it doesn't show up to the customer. All right, so this proposal's ready to go. And when I click email and submit, now there's a couple things that happen here in the background when you submit a proposal off. The first one is we check your profit calc to make sure that it's above the margin percentage that you want to make by default for every proposal that goes out. Now it's set by default to 40%. So if you're below 40% when you try to send this out, it's going to give us a warning. but you can change that percentage in the proposal section of the settings page. The second thing it checks is to make sure you have sales tax, and it will let you know if you don't. In this case, we're good on both of those, so we go right into the review and submit section. And so we've got the customer email since I filled it in. I can CC anybody, and then just if you do more than one email address on the CC, you can just separate them with a comma. No space, just a comma. And then you can rewrite or write your email to the customer here. If you want to create a template that you use every time and then edit it just slightly, you can just save it as your default message. But this message looks good, and I'm going to go ahead and send it off to the customer. All right, so the status of the proposal changes automatically to submitted. When the customer opens the proposal, you'll get a notification, and this will change to show that they opened it. The other thing that happens, so now let's look at the proposal history section. So we're starting to get some more activity on this proposal, and you can see it in this proposal history section. So we saw some of the edits that we were doing. We refreshed the profit, so it grabs that. When we submit it, you get a PDF record of the version of the proposal that was submitted here. So you can download that for reference. You also get a copy of the client URL. So the client gets the email from you. It's actually from Portal, but it's aliased. So if they respond, the reply to email goes directly to you. They get a link in that email to view the proposal. This is that same link. And then there's also a revert button. So if you make changes to the proposal and then you submit it out again, every time you submit it, we grab a screenshot or a snapshot, I should say, of the proposal, and you can revert back to that version. So the versioning, so to speak, of proposals is built in based on the natural workflow of a proposal. Submit, make changes, submit, make changes, submit. That's 3 versions. You don't have to rename them. They're all here in the proposal history section, and you can revert them back. You can also see the message that went out with that version that you sent to the customer here. All right, so the other thing that I want to show you is when it comes to the client URL, let's say you have, one of a couple things. Number one, for some reason you want to email the customer directly. Maybe you've got some additional things you want to attach and say in the email, and you just don't want to do it through here. Then what you would do is you'd come up to the proposal and you want to change the status manually to submitted. That tells the system that it's been sent out to the customer or that it's being sent out to the customer. And then you can grab the client link. The second example that I wanted to mention is you may want to email a different person a copy of the proposal, but know the difference between who's opening it. And that's where this copy client link comes in. So once a proposal's in submitted status, so when you've sent it or you've manually marked it submitted, you can come in here and copy the client link. And when you do that, you can create a link reference. And you can name this whatever you want. So let's say this is contractor, and then you can copy the client link. And what's great about this is when you paste it or send it to the customer and they open that link, it will tell you in the proposal history, and we'll see this in just a second. All right, so I've opened up that URL that I just copied. This is what I see. In this case, this is the contractor vanity URL. They've got the same thing the customer sees because this is a live customer-facing proposal. We just tagged it so we can identify who's looking at it. And so it looks the same as it does, to the customer. But now that they've opened it, what you see on your proposal, okay, so now what you see on your end is that it was viewed right up here at the top, but also you can see who viewed it. If you go back into the proposal history section, scroll down, I can see now that it was the contractor who viewed the proposal, here's the reference, with the timestamp. So we grab that and we put that in the proposal history as well. So you can see who's looking at it and when. Let's go to the client view and we'll see again what the client sees. All right, so this is the client view of the proposal. They cannot accept the proposal without accepting the options. Remember, we put 2 options on this proposal. So let's do option 2. This one looks good. Now, the proposal total changes in real time based on the option that they're looking at. So I call this like a choose your own adventure proposal when it has options. So the client sort of sets it. And what's great about this is the client can build the proposal in and upsell themselves based on what they want and what they want to spend without it feeling salesy, like you're pushing them in any one direction. You're just giving them options. So I'm going to go with the upgraded TV here. I'm going to choose the option, and then they're faced with a confirm you're declining option 1 statement here. So we're going to confirm that. And then in the kitchen, so I upgraded the TV. We're going to opt out of the kitchen zone for this one, and I confirm that. All right, the rest of this looks good. I'm going to accept the proposal. There is a request changes button here. If they click that, you'll get a notification that the client wants to make changes. You can make those changes and then resubmit it to the customer. But we're going to accept the proposal. Here's the signature. The client's just signed and accepted the proposal. Now, the next step is to make a payment. And you can see that it says right here, a payment of, in this case, it's $2,690 and 65 cents is required to move forward. And then they click make a payment and they're presented, they go to a different page, which is a secure payment page showing what they need to pay. The instructions that you set up for your company, so Venmo, wire instructions, wire transfer, where to send the checks, you can put that all in here. This is where I've put all the payment information. Additionally, if you have payment processing set up in Portal, it will present them for a bank transfer option or credit card payment, and they can do that right now. Now, here's something that's really, really, really cool about the way we do credit cards in Portal and payment processing. You can add a convenience fee to the customer for using a credit card or paying with credit card. What that does is it adds to the total, right? So we've asked the customer deposit is $2,690 and 65 cents in this case. 3% of that is $83.19. I can add that as a convenience fee to offset the credit card charges on this transaction. It lays that out very clearly for the customer. It says there's an $83.19 fee, and it gives them the new total with that fee down here, $27.73.84. And so the customer enters their card information, they make that payment, and we process the credit card. For more information on credit card processing and the payment module, we've got a separate video for that. So I'm not going to dig in too deeply on this. This is really just the proposal deep dive. So I'm going to jump back into the proposal now. And we're still looking at the proposal history because now we've got something else. And that is, we can see the accepted proposal here. And we can download the PDF record of the accepted proposal, which includes the digital signature from the customer. You'll also get an email with this on it, but this is always here for reference and you can always download it. So again, going back to this idea of versioning, if you send out a version that gets accepted and then the customer wants to make some changes and then you want them to accept it again, get their digital signature on the final version, you've got a history of all the accepted versions of the proposal here in the proposal history section. Which leads me to change orders. So we don't have a feature built in that's called change orders, but the way dealers do change orders is sort of up to you, leveraging this idea of different versions of the proposal. So what you can do is, since you have a record of every submitted version, every accepted version, once you've won the job and you need to make some changes, you can go back into the proposal. We can set it as draft to edit. And I can do several things here in order to represent a change order. I could go down and create a new area that is for the change order. And I can call the area change order 1 and then put all my stuff in there. What I like to do is go into the room. Let's say we ended up upgrading these speakers, right? They're D83s now. So what I like to do is go in, we'll add the D83s. Here it is. I'm going to add it in. And then you can add in the client description, you can say a date, so 4/28, upgraded from D63 to D83 on site with client approval. Right? And so we're going to do 2 of these. And then I'm going to do -2 of those. And now I have a new revised total for this change order. So this running total is the current total of the project. In most cases, your change order is going to be higher. And so what's left to be paid on the payment schedule will adjust automatically. But this allows you to track all of the payments. And using the negative quantities, you can see what you replaced. You can leave it on there without removing it from the proposal and then trying to figure out what exactly you did. So there's a lot of ways to document what's happening here when you're making changes after the fact. And then you can just tell the client, when you send this out, you can just tell them this is the new version of the proposal. You'll see the changes in the kitchen. I just need you to accept the revised proposal. The payment schedule stays the same. It's just the final payment looks a little bit different. It's very simple, actually. It's quite straightforward. So that's how we recommend handling change orders. You can do them as a separate area, section in the proposal, and or you can just update the proposal, add the items that you that are new, upgraded items, remove the items that maybe you didn't install, and you're good to go. All right, once a proposal is accepted, you then will see that the top button to submit changes to create purchase order. Because once the proposal is accepted, the next step is to collect payment, of course. And then once you collect the payment, you're ready to order the parts. And so this is when the workflow goes into creating a purchase order. So you can always create a purchase order from the menu in a proposal, but we make it easier when the proposal is accepted to click create purchase order, and then go into that new workflow where you can manage all your purchasing using Portal. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive journey into proposals. And you know where you can find us in the chat right on the site. If you have any questions, let us know.